This is Zach Clark, Development and Leadership Coaching, and I want to talk with you today about how to avoid burnout. One of our coaches recently challenged me to teach on this topic, and I think that she challenged me because this is something that we see and hear a lot about among leaders that we work with, so faith-based leaders and ministry organizations. I was very challenged by the idea, though, and took it to heart because I myself have struggled with burnout. In fact, I, not too many years ago, went through a pretty serious season of darkness and burnout. And so perhaps she challenged me to share a little bit. So this was interesting to me because this is an area, frankly, I continue to really learn and work at, and am very humbled by how to do better and how I manage my time and energy and avoid burnout. So I had to think through what do I have to share on this that I think could be helpful and encouraging. So I'm a little shy and embarrassed to share some of these things with you because there are things that I really have to work at, but I hope that they're helpful. So avoiding burnout. The first thing is I think you've got to make sure that you're expending energy on things that energize you, and expending as little as possible energy on things that drain you, and know the difference. One of the challenges I think about ministry leadership is that it is always something coming at you. It's to quote one of my favorite movies, it's the dismal tide. There's always this need, and there's more need than you can ever respond to. And so there is a constant sense of good things that we could be doing. And then we look up and we realize that we're burning out. So I think that it's very key that you identify those things that when you're doing them really bring energy and vibrancy to your life at work. So things that you say, wow, this doesn't even feel like work to me. I could do this all the time, or time just sort of falls away. Those are things that energize you. Things that drain you are a little tougher because if you're highly capable, you may be able to do a lot of these things and not really be aware that they're actually draining you. So someone recently challenged me to put these on a list. Just take a piece of paper and divide it in half, and on one half put things that energize you and the other things that drain you, and really identify that. And if your list of things that drain you, that you're involved with, is longer than the list that energizes you, then it's predictable. You are headed toward a stage of burnout and have some adjustments to make. So it's a very, very helpful thing to approach that. The things that drain you, prioritize those in terms of a plan to eliminate them or delegate them. A lot of times I think that people that struggle with burnout the most are people that also struggle with delegation, because again, we are capable of doing these things, and we're maybe not as sensitive to the fact that they do wear us out or drain that energy. So really create a plan, even if it's one thing at a time, and taking small steps to eliminate things or delegate things that drain you. The other thing I would say about managing your energy is you've got to learn to say no a lot. It's hard for me to say no, but this is a learned skill. And one of the ways that you learn to say no frequently is you get very, very clear on what your key responsibilities are, the key contributions that you're making in your ministry. And there's normally not more than 3 to 5 of those things. And once you get those crystal clear, then it does get easier to say no. But become a master at saying no to things that fall outside those core responsibilities. The next thing I guess I would share about avoiding burnout would be to make rest part of your work. I am really embarrassed by this, but I have to truly work at resting. I have to work at it. I have to work at sleeping. I have to work at stopping. I have to approach it with a similar set of disciplines than I do some of these other things in work. I have to block time for planning. I have to block time for thinking. I have to block time for reflection, for a vacation. I have to block time for, if I'm going to take a nap, I have to block time for it. Not because I'm so busy, but that if I don't block the time, I will not do it. I have to be aware of how many hours I'm sleeping, and when I'm slipping from that, I have to be proactive in making adjustments. So I have to actually work at resting, or I will not do it. I would encourage you to schedule time that is quiet, and what I mean by that is to be in the woods or sitting in a dark room or something where there's no sound, where there's nothing in this noisy world pressing in on you. I think that that is incredibly important as well. Another perspective I would share about burnout is that stopping activity normally doesn't help. You have to apply instead a healthy stress. So this is one of the big things that I think people who maybe don't struggle with burnout or aren't kind of type A leaders, they really don't get that stopping just isn't usually an option, that you don't feel, that doesn't help. You could stop, but your brain is still going, and maybe even stopping is making it worse. So I have found it helpful to instead shift to apply healthy stress. So rather than the constant stress that's always coming, a healthier stress. So that for me is working out. It could be anything that pushes you beyond your limits. So it could be the longest walk ever. It could be the longest book you've read ever. It could be the hardest workout you've ever had. It could be the longest run you've ever had, or the fastest run you've ever had. Anything that stretches your limit, while that sounds counterintuitive, that applies a healthy stress, and that helps you grow a healthier engine. Another thing I think that, because stopping doesn't help, is if there's something you're struggling that you've been putting off as it relates to work, that really leads to burnout because you're getting overwhelmed and you know you need to do this. So what I encourage people to do, and do this myself, is set a timer for 15 minutes and just work on that for 15 minutes. When the timer goes off, you'll probably want to keep going or just stop. But I think that's a good way to get out of that stopping feeling that normally does not help with burnout. There's a lot I could say about health, but to me this all falls under the category of self-leadership. And so I encourage you to start. This is where I had to start. Start at really grappling with the reality that you are the key asset in your family. You are the key asset in your calling or your work. And that you have to protect that asset. And what I mean by that is not that you're so important, but that no one else can do some of these things. That's why God created you. And if you do not protect that asset, then you are in trouble and you're headed for burnout. It's the whole example of the oxygen mask on the airplane that I've heard numerous people share. But they teach you don't put the oxygen mask on your child or someone else first. You put it on yourself first so you can assist others, right? Well, you do that because you're no good to someone if your life has crumbled. You're no good to someone if you've passed out. You're no good to someone if you're in the hospital, right? So leading yourself, I think, will feel a little bit like selfishness at first, because you're trying to figure out, how do I protect this asset and get it healthy and keep it healthy? So exercise, eating well, thinking instead of how do I eliminate bad food or eliminate these things, how do I replace them? So instead of eliminating TV, I'm going to replace TV with exercise. Instead of eating jelly beans or ice cream, which are my weaknesses big time, I'm going to replace those with apples and almonds. And that is a little bit easier than just eliminating. Another thought I have on this is to really grapple with your own performance-oriented mentality. Maybe I'm alone here, but I really had to kind of settle with God this issue that I have, which is that if it's something to do, then I need to do it and do it well, or good things aren't going to happen for others or for life. To me, a performance-oriented mentality is that we always have to do something for good things to happen. And while that sometimes is true, and it's often true, It's not always true, because the reality is God gives us grace one moment at a time. God uses us in spite of our brokenness and failings, and does these amazing things through our weaknesses. The key question I've learned is to, when facing those challenges, what is God's grace for this moment? Instead of, what do I need to do here? What do I need to do for the next 5 years to make sure this is better? What is God's grace given in this moment? You're effective as a leader not because of what you're capable of doing. You're effective because God loves you and loves to use you in what He's doing. That's why we're effective. And then last thing is, I would encourage you, when you're struggling with that sense of burnout or overwhelm, do something that makes you feel a little bit better. Just a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. So what is one small thing? And you may create a whole list. I've got a whole list. So I've got a bunch of small things I can do. Cooking, practice putting on a putting green, jumping jacks, listening to particular music. For my wife, it's gardening, seeing something kind of completed and finished. Build your list of little things. The warning here is, don't look for things that are going to make you feel a lot better. That's why many leaders who struggle with burnout end up destroying their careers or destroying their families, because they're looking at something that makes them feel so much better. This person makes me feel so much better. This drink makes me feel so much better. This drug makes me feel so much better. This website makes me feel so much better. Those are huge, huge warning signs when it's something that makes you feel that much better. Look for something just a little bit. So those are a few things that I've learned, most of it the hard way, and listening to others. And I look forward to hearing from you on this. I think this is a big topic. I would be interested to know what you're learning as well. Thank you.